The Unlocked Heart, My Grandmother's Last Secret. Chapter 1, The Echo of Silence. Atlanta, Georgia, 2024. The scent of lilies still clung to the air, cloying and heavy, a constant reminder of the past week. My grandmother, Clara Mae Peterson, was gone. 92 years young, as she always insisted. She had been the cornerstone of our family, a vibrant, unwavering force of nature, a woman who baked the best peach cobbler and spun tales that blurred the lines between history and legend. And now, the world felt quieter, too quiet. I am Amelia Vance, 35 years old, an architect by profession. My life was built on logic, on structures, on plans. I found comfort in precision, in the tangible. This made Clara Mae's passing all the more disorienting. Grief, I was discovering, was anything but logical. It was a swirling, shapeless storm that stole your breath and left you adrift. My relationship with Clara Mae was complex. She had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7. She filled my childhood with resilience, with a quiet strength, and with stories of our family's deep roots in the humid soil of Savannah, Georgia. She taught me to draw, to appreciate the beauty in decaying historical buildings, and how to tell the difference between a real antique and a clever fake. She was my anchor, yes, but she was also a woman of fierce independence, often guarded, and sometimes frustratingly elusive about her own past. We loved each other fiercely, but there was always a thin veil between us, a sense of unspoken history that I, in my youthful impatience and later adult pragmatism, never quite managed to pierce. I loved her, of course, deeply. But sometimes her eccentricity, her cryptic remarks, her stubborn adherence to old ways had chafed against my modern sensibilities. The will reading was a somber affair. My Aunt Susan, Clara Mae's only surviving child and my mother's elder sister, sat beside me, her eyes red-rimmed. Our cousin David, a lawyer by trade, read the formal document in the quiet, dignified office of Clara Mae's attorney, Mr. Thompson. The usual bequests were there: the family home in Savannah to Aunt Susan, various small monetary gifts to charities Clara Mae supported, a collection of antique silver to David. And then there was me, to my dearest granddaughter, Amelia Vance, Mr. Thompson read, his voice surprisingly gentle. I bequeath the antique cedar chest, currently residing in the attic of my Savannah home, and, importantly, this letter. He held up a thick, cream-colored envelope, slightly yellowed with age. My name, Amelia Vance, was written across the front in Clara Mae's distinctive, elegant cursive. It was a familiar sight from childhood birthday cards and holiday greetings. But beneath my name, in bold, almost defiant strokes, were words that sent a shiver down my spine. Open this only if you truly love me. A collective gasp went around the room. Aunt Susan looked bewildered. David's brows furrowed in confusion. I, however, felt a cold knot form in my stomach. Only if you truly love me. It was so like Clara Mae, always with a challenge, always demanding something more, even from beyond the grave. It felt like a test, a final, unsettling judgment. Mr. Thompson handed me the letter. It felt surprisingly heavy in my hand, substantial, as if it held not just paper, but secrets. Your grandmother was a unique woman, Amelia, he said, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. She specifically instructed me that this letter was to be given to you, along with the contents of the cedar chest, only after her passing, and only with that particular caveat. He paused, his gaze fixed on mine. "She said you'd understand." But I didn't understand. Not really. Did I love her? Of course I did. She was my grandmother, my guardian. She raised me. But truly love her? What did that even mean? Was there some hidden condition? Some unspoken expectation? A deep sense of unease settled over me. This wasn't a simple inheritance. It was a riddle. A final, cryptic pronouncement from a woman who had always spoken in riddles. I took the letter home, back to my quiet Atlanta apartment. It lay on my coffee table, a constant, unsettling presence. My mind, usually so clear, was clouded with doubt. Did I truly love her in the way she meant? Had I always appreciated her enough? Had I looked past her eccentricities to the heart beneath? My architect's mind, so accustomed to clear blueprints, found no easy answers here. The very essence of her last wish felt like a profound, unsettling accusation. The silence in my apartment, once merely empty, now felt charged with her unspoken question. For 3 days, the letter lay untouched. I paced, I worried. Aunt Susan called, expressing her confusion and mild offense. "Why such a strange request, Amelia? Of course you loved her." But her words didn't ease my apprehension. Clara Mae wouldn't have added that phrase lightly. There was a deeper meaning, a hidden purpose. On the 4th day, consumed by a mixture of grief, guilt, and a nagging curiosity, I finally picked it up. My fingers traced the bold, familiar script. The paper felt fragile, yet held an immense weight. My heart pounded against my ribs. What if opening it revealed something terrible? A criticism, a disappointment, or worse, a burden I wasn't prepared for. But then a memory surfaced. Clara Mae, sitting on her porch swing in Savannah, her eyes twinkling as she told me a ghost story, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Amelia, darling," she'd said, "the greatest adventures aren't found in faraway lands, but in the secrets hidden closest to home." A profound wave of love for her, raw and undeniable, washed over me. Not just the love born of duty or gratitude, but a deeper, more complicated affection for the fiercely independent, sometimes exasperating, always captivating woman who had shaped me. Yes, I loved her, truly, with all her quirks and mysteries. With a deep breath, I broke the seal. The paper rustled softly. Inside, written in her familiar hand, were not words of judgment, but a story, her story, and a new, unexpected quest. Chapter 2, The Cedar Chest and the First Whisper. The letter unfolded in my hands, revealing pages filled with Clara Mae's elegant, slightly shaky script. It wasn't a will or a list of demands. It was a narrative. Her voice, clear and distinct, seemed to fill the quiet apartment. "My dearest Amelia, if you are reading this, then you truly do love me, and not just with the polite affection of a granddaughter, but with the full, complicated, enduring love that acknowledges all my faults and embraces all my quirks. You, my practical Amelia, have chosen to embark on one last adventure with your eccentric old grandmother, and for that, my heart sings. This is not a story of gold or jewels, my darling. This is a story of life, my life, a life I've kept hidden, carefully tucked away like precious lace in a forgotten drawer. There are secrets, yes, sorrows, and a love so profound it still echoes in my bones. Your first task, Amelia, is to find the cedar chest, the one I left you in the will. It holds more than just old linens. It holds the beginning of my truth. Inside, you will find a small, leather-bound book, my first journal. And within its pages, A clue. Not a riddle for the mind, my dear, but for the heart. It will lead you to the first tangible piece of my past. Go to Savannah. Go to the house. And open your eyes, not just to what you see, but to what you feel. The old house holds many whispers if you only listen. With all my love, always, Clara Mae. A mixture of dread and excitement churned in my stomach. Savannah, the house, my childhood home, now Aunt Susan's, and a secret life, my grandmother. The stoic, proper Clara Mae had a hidden past. The idea was both unsettling and incredibly intriguing. I called Aunt Susan immediately. "Aunt Susan," I began, trying to keep my voice even. "I'm coming to Savannah. I need to get the cedar chest." Aunt Susan was already overwhelmed with sorting Clara Mae's belongings, but she agreed. "Of course, dear, it's in the attic. You know the one. Heavy as sin, that chest." She mentioned it casually, unaware of the profound meaning of my visit. The drive to Savannah felt different this time. Every tree-lined avenue, every square filled with moss-draped oaks, seemed to hold a new secret, a hidden layer I had never noticed. The city, usually so familiar, felt imbued with a new, mysterious aura. The house, a grand old Victorian with a wraparound porch, stood like a silent sentinel to decades of family history. Stepping inside felt like stepping into a time capsule. The scent of Clara Mae's lavender potpourri still lingered, and the quiet hum of the old grandfather clock in the hall was a familiar comfort. The attic was a dusty repository of forgotten treasures and discarded memories. Old furniture shrouded in white sheets, boxes overflowing with old photographs, holiday decorations. And there it was, in a quiet corner, beneath a thick layer of dust, the cedar chest. Large, dark, intricately carved, it looked exactly as I remembered it from my childhood. A forbidden object I was never allowed to touch. With a surge of determination, I pulled it open. The scent of aged cedar filled the air, mingled with the faint fragrance of dried flowers. Inside lay neatly folded heirloom linens, stacks of yellowed lace, and a few small, velvet-covered boxes I didn't dare open yet. And then, tucked beneath a stack of embroidered doilies, was the small, leather-bound book, a journal. Its cover was blank, worn smooth by time. My heart pounded. This was it, the beginning. I opened the journal. The first few pages were blank. Then, a graceful, youthful hand filled the pages, clearly Clara Mae's, but from a much younger age. The entries began in 1948. She was 16, and the words, so candid, so raw, were nothing like the reserved grandmother I knew. July 14th, 1948. Savannah. I saw him today. His eyes, like the storm-gray ocean after a rain. He worked on the docks, a sailor passing through. Mama would never approve, but my heart, oh my heart, it feels like a wild bird, desperate to fly. A gasp escaped my lips. A sailor? Clara Mae, my proper grandmother, enamored with a sailor? The woman who preached decorum and tradition? This was a side of her I had never, ever imagined. The journal described a passionate, secret summer romance. A young Clara Mae, chafing against the strictures of her southern upbringing, falling deeply, recklessly in love with a sailor named Liam O'Connell, a handsome, adventurous Irishman. He filled her head with dreams of far-off lands, of freedom, of a life unbound by societal expectations. August 20th, 1948. He promised he would come back for me. He left me a small token, a compass rose carved from dark wood. He said it would always point me home, no matter where I strayed. My heart aches with the thought of him leaving, but sings with the hope of his return. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. The journal abruptly ended on that entry. A love story, unfinished. A secret buried for over 70 years. And the first clue, a compass rose. I looked around the attic, my eyes now seeing it not as a dusty storage space, but as a repository of untold stories. Where would Clara Mae have kept such a personal, precious token? It had to be somewhere significant, somewhere hidden. Suddenly, my gaze landed on an old, rather large, wooden globe, tucked away in a shadowed corner. It was an antique, something I vaguely remembered from my childhood. Something Clara Mae would occasionally spin, tracing imaginary journeys with her finger. She had always loved maps and globes. A compass rose, a globe. I approached it, my heart racing. The globe was dusty, the varnish worn in places. I ran my fingers over its surface, then, guided by instinct, along the stand. And there it was, a small, almost imperceptible button hidden beneath the base. I pressed it. With a faint click, a small drawer slid open from the bottom of the globe, and inside, nestled on a faded piece of velvet, was a small, intricately carved wooden compass rose. It was dark, almost black with age, but its delicate points were still sharp, its surface smooth. It felt cool and heavy in my palm, and beneath it, another cream-colored envelope. The same familiar handwriting, the same unsettling phrase, "Openness only if you truly love me." I didn't hesitate this time. The first letter, the journal, the compass rose, they had shattered my doubts. I did love her. This wasn't a test of my affection, but a testament to hers. With a deep breath, I broke the seal on the second letter, eager to delve deeper into her extraordinary hidden life. The quiet whispers of the old house seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the story to unfold. Chapter 3: The Ghost of a Melody. The second letter, discovered in the hidden compartment of the old globe, felt like a bridge spanning decades, connecting the eager young Clara Mae of the journal to the enigmatic grandmother I had known. My fingers trembled as I opened it, the scent of old paper and the subtle, lingering scent of lavender, always her favorite, filling the air. My darling Amelia, you found it. My little compass rose. It pointed me home, always, even when I felt hopelessly lost. Liam, he was the storm and the sunshine of my youth. A wild, beautiful dream that wasn't meant for a girl tied to Savannah's gentle currents. His departure left a hollow space, a longing that echoed for many years. Life, however, has a way of moving forward, doesn't it? I married your grandfather, Robert, a good, steady man. He brought stability and quiet affection to my life. We built a family, a respectable life. But a piece of my heart always stayed on that dock, waiting for a ship that never returned. I believe every life has a song, a melody that plays through its triumphs and its sorrows. Mine had a haunting, beautiful refrain. This melody was woven into the fabric of my quiet rebellion, into the choices I made, and into the one place where I could truly be myself, free from the expectations of society. Your next clue, my dear, lies where a particular melody always brought me solace, a place where the strains of a forgotten tune carried my unspoken dreams on the wind. Think of the notes that brought me peace, the chords that hinted at a life less ordinary. Look for the faint hum of a musical instrument that shaped more than just sound. Seek the whispers of a forgotten song, and know that I am with you, listening, with endless affection. Clara Mae, a particular melody, a musical instrument that shaped more than just sound. Clara Mae had always loved music. She played the piano, her fingers, though gnarled with age, still capable of coaxing beautiful melodies from the old upright in the parlor. But it wasn't just the piano. She had an affinity for something else, something older, more subtle. A memory surfaced, faint at first, then gaining clarity. My childhood. Evenings on the porch swing. Clara Mae, humming soft, melancholic tunes I didn't recognize. Sometimes she would pick up an old, rather plain wooden box, shaped like a small harp, and pluck at its strings with a metal pick. It produced a haunting, ethereal sound, unlike anything I'd ever heard. A zither, she'd called it. A very old soul, this one, she'd once whispered, her eyes far away. She rarely played it in front of others. It was her private solace, her secret companion. She kept it in a tall, narrow cabinet in the parlor, behind a collection of antique dolls. The zither, that had to be it. It shaped more than just sound, because it shaped her private moments, her emotional landscape. I hurried to the parlor, my heart pounding with renewed excitement. The cabinet stood as I remembered it, filled with glass-eyed dolls that always gave me the creeps as a child. I pulled open the doors, and there, tucked behind a porcelain doll with a chipped nose, was the zither. Its wooden surface was smooth, the strings taut. I lifted it gently. It felt lighter than I remembered, imbued with a quiet dignity. I ran my fingers along its strings, producing a soft, mournful hum. And taped to the underside of the soundboard, hidden from casual view, was another cream-colored envelope. And of course, the now familiar, poignant phrase, "Open this only if you truly love me." I didn't hesitate. This was no longer a test. It was a conversation, a bond tightening across the divide of death. I tore open the envelope. My precious Amelia, you found my zither, my quiet confidant. It carried my secrets, my longing, my silent tears. After Liam, a part of me always remained distant, protected. Robert, your grandfather, was a good man, as I said. He provided stability, a family, but the wild, untamed part of my heart, the one that beat only for adventure, for the thrill of the unknown, retreated. It sought refuge in the quiet solace of music, in the stories I wove in my mind. I had other dreams, Amelia. Dreams of seeing the world, of breaking free from the expectations of a Savannah belle. Dreams of a life less ordinary than the one I built. But societal pressures, duty, family, they can be powerful chains, can't they? I chose stability. I chose the path of duty, and I never regretted loving your grandfather or raising your mother. But a piece of me always wondered, what if? This next clue will lead you to a different kind of freedom, a place of knowledge, of forgotten voices, of stories bound in leather and dust. Think of where words held power, where ancient wisdom whispered from quiet shelves, and where I spent countless hours, not just reading, but truly seeing the lives of others, finding echoes of my own unspoken desires within their tales. Look for a specific inscription, a tiny detail in a vast ocean of stories. My love for you, my curious Amelia, is a story without end. With growing anticipation, Clara Mae, a place of knowledge, forgotten voices, stories bound in leather and dust. My mind immediately went to the Savannah Public Library. Clara Mae had been an avid reader, spending countless hours there. She always said it was her portal to other worlds. The library. That was it. I left the zither carefully back in its cabinet, the weight of its secrets still lingering in my hands. The old house, once merely a backdrop to my childhood, was now a living testament to Clara Mae's hidden life, filled with echoes of her young, rebellious spirit. The Savannah Public Library was a grand, imposing building filled with the hushed reverence of knowledge. The scent of old books enveloped me as I stepped inside, a comforting aroma that always reminded me of Clara Mae. She often spent entire afternoons here, lost amidst the towering stacks. Look for a specific inscription, a tiny detail in a vast ocean of stories. This was going to be harder. The library was immense, filled with thousands upon thousands of books. How could I possibly find one specific inscription? I sat down at one of the heavy oak tables, pulling out Clara Mae's letter. I reread the clue, searching for any additional hint, any subtle nuance I might have missed. Where words held power, ancient wisdom whispered, truly seeing the lives of others. Suddenly it clicked. Not just any book, not just any section. Clara Mae had a particular fascination with biographies, with the untold stories of women who defied societal norms, who forged their own paths. And she had a favorite section, the one by the large stained glass window, where the afternoon sun cast colorful patterns on the worn carpet. I went to the biography section, my heart pounding with a new kind of excitement. I scanned the shelves, my fingers tracing the spines of countless lives. And then a memory, so vivid it felt like a jolt. Clara Mae, years ago, telling me about a book that changed her perspective on life. Amelia, she'd said, never underestimate the quiet power of a woman who knows her own mind, even when the world tells her she's wrong. There's a particular biography here about a woman who sailed the world disguised as a man. Her courage, it always spoke to me. The book. The Life and Adventures of Anne Bonny, a biography of a famous female pirate. I had scoffed at the time, dismissing it as one of her eccentric fantasies. But now, it resonated with a new, profound meaning. Clara Mae, the spirited young woman who dreamed of escaping Savannah, had seen herself in the defiant, adventurous spirit of a pirate. I found the book. It was well worn, its cover faded. I opened it carefully, leafing through the pages. No letter inside. But then, on the very last page, written in Clara Mae's small, neat hand, was a single line, tucked away in the margin, almost indistinguishable from the printed text. The true treasure is always found beneath the oldest oak, in the heart of the garden, where whispers become truths. My breath caught, beneath the oldest oak, in the heart of the garden. It was a direct reference to the ancient, sprawling oak tree in the very center of her beloved garden at the Savannah house. The tree I had climbed as a child, the one she often sat beneath, sketching. The very tree where my mother's memorial bench stood. This was no longer just about Clara Mae's past. It was about our past, my past, the secrets of her life, now intertwined with the very landscape of my childhood. And the final clue, waiting beneath the oldest oak, promised to reveal the ultimate truth. The answers were closer than I had ever imagined, waiting for me in the quiet heart of her beautiful, ancient garden. Chapter 4, The Unearthing of Truth. The clue from the library, scrawled in the margin of the pirate biography, resonated with a profound sense of coming home. The true treasure is always found beneath the oldest oak, in the heart of the garden, where whispers become truths. This wasn't a journey across cities anymore. It was a descent into the very core of my family's history, into the soil that nourished my own roots. I returned to Clara Mae's house in Savannah, my heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and an almost desperate need for answers. The garden, usually a place of tranquil beauty, now hummed with an unspoken tension, alive with the promise of revelation. The ancient oak, its sprawling branches reaching towards the sky like gnarled arms, stood as a silent sentinel. Beneath its shade was the weathered stone bench, engraved with my mother's name, Eleanor Vance, a place of quiet sorrow, now brimming with unexpected possibility. I walked slowly towards it, my gaze fixed on the ground beneath the tree. The grass was thick, interspersed with moss and the occasional fallen leaf. Where would she have hidden something? A box? A marker? Clara Mae was meticulous, but she also loved a touch of poetic mystery. I knelt, my fingers tracing the rough bark of the tree's roots, then sifting through the damp earth around its base. Nothing, just soil and stubborn weeds. I tried to think like her. She wouldn't just bury something haphazardly. There would be a reason, a subtle marker. My eyes fell upon a cluster of azaleas. Their blooms faded, but still clinging to life. Clara Mae had planted them herself, years ago, on one of my visits. She had a particular way of planting, always placing a small, flat river stone at the base of newly planted shrubs. A personal ritual. My gaze darted around the base of the oak, and there, almost entirely covered by fallen leaves and soil, was a single, unusually smooth, dark river stone. It felt out of place, too perfect. With renewed vigor, I began to dig around the stone using my hands, then a small trowel I found in the shed. The soil was loose, as if it had been disturbed before. My heart hammered against my ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation. After only a few minutes, my trowel struck something solid. Not a rock, something flat and wooden. I cleared away the last of the earth, revealing a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was made of the same dark wood as the compass rose, aged and worn, but still beautiful. It wasn't large, perhaps a foot long, half a foot wide. It had no lock, just a simple, almost invisible latch. This was it, the true treasure, the culmination of Clara Mae's posthumous quest. My hands trembled so much I almost couldn't open the latch. The silence of the garden felt immense, holding its breath. I carefully lifted the lid. Inside, on a bed of faded silk, lay not gold or jewels, but a collection of items, each imbued with a profound, unspoken history. First, a bundle of letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon. The handwriting was bold, masculine, not Clara Mae's, and the stamps were Irish. They were addressed to my dearest Clara. My mind immediately went to Liam O'Connell, the sailor, the first love of Clara Mae's young life. I picked one up. The ink was faded, but legible. Dates from 1949, 1950, 1951. He had written back. He hadn't forgotten her. He had tried to find her. My heart ached with a deep, vicarious sorrow for the young Clara Mae who never received these letters, perhaps never knew Liam had tried to return to her. Next, nestled beneath the letters, was a small, delicate silver locket, intricately engraved. I opened it. Inside, on one side, was a miniature, hand-painted portrait of a young man, clearly Liam, with his storm-gray eyes. On the other side, a tiny, almost invisible lock of golden-brown hair. The exact shade of Clara Mae's own hair in her youth. A secret exchanged love token, a bond unbreakable. And finally, at the very bottom of the box, was another small, thin, leather-bound journal. Its cover was blank, unmarked, blending in with the silk lining. It was different from the first journal I found in the cedar chest. This one looked newer, perhaps, or simply less used. This one felt like a revelation waiting to unfold. As I took it out, a final, cream-colored envelope, thinner than the others, slipped from its pages, landing softly on the silk lining of the box. My name, Amelia Vance, written on the front. And beneath it, for the very last time, the words, "Open this only if you truly love me." I didn't need to ask myself this question anymore. My heart cracked open by her stories, by her incredible foresight, by the depth of her secret life, resonated with an undeniable, profound love. I tore open the envelope. My beloved Amelia, you have found it. The heart of my garden, the resting place of my truest secret. The letters from Liam. He did return, in a way. He came back for me. He tried. But by then, I was already married to Robert, pregnant with your mother. My life had taken a different path, a path of duty and responsibility. I never saw his letters. They were intercepted, hidden from me by a well-meaning but misguided family member who feared the scandal of a sailor returning for me. I only discovered them decades later, by chance, hidden in a dusty trunk. By then, it was too late to change anything. But knowing he tried, knowing his love was true, brought me a quiet peace. The locket was a gift from him, exchanged on our last night, a promise. And this final journal, my darling, this is for you. It contains the last thoughts of my life, the reflections of an old woman, looking back on a life lived, a life loved, a life filled with choices, some joyful, some heartbreaking. It contains the real story of my choosing to raise your mother outside of the confines of my initial passion, and how I learned to truly love your grandfather, deeply and honestly, even though a piece of my heart always belonged to the sea. But there's one more thing, Amelia, a truth I never spoke aloud, a truth that only you, my fiercely intelligent, perceptive granddaughter, can truly understand and appreciate. It's about a bond that runs deeper than blood, about choices made for love, and about the silent strength of women. On the very last page of this journal, Amelia, you will find a name, a legacy, a final, beautiful secret. This is my last confession, my last whisper, for you and for our family. My adventure ends. Yours continues. Live bravely, love fiercely, and never be afraid to uncover the quiet truths that lie hidden beneath the surface. Know that I loved you with every fiber of my being, and that my love, like the oldest oak, will always stand strong for you, forever and always, Clara Mae. My hands trembled violently as I closed the empty letter, a torrent of emotions washing over me. Sorrow for the young Clara Mae and Liam, for their lost love, awe at her quiet strength and resilience, and a profound, aching understanding of the sacrifices she had made. The sheer depth of her planning, the emotional complexity of this inheritance, left me breathless. She had known I would come. She had known I would dig. She had trusted me with her deepest secrets. I turned to the journal, the last confession. I thought of it. It was thin, filled with her final entries, her reflections on life, on love, on aging, on her impending death. She wrote about her acceptance of her illness, her peace with leaving, and her profound love for all of us. She wrote about watching me grow, admiring my strength, my logic, my ability to build. And she wrote about Liam, not with regret, but with a quiet, wistful acceptance of a love that was beautiful but not meant to be. She spoke of how she eventually fell deeply in love with Robert, my grandfather, cherishing the quiet strength and unwavering support he provided. Her life, she revealed, was not defined by one love, but by the layers of profound affection that shaped her. I reached the very last page. Her script, a little shakier now, but still clear. And there, written in bold, deliberate strokes, was a single name, followed by a profound, life-altering confession. The locket I wore, the one I placed in this box, contains the hair of my first child. Not your mother, Amelia, my firstborn, a daughter I had with Liam. She was born in secret shortly after he left and given to my older sister to raise as her own. She grew up in Charleston, believing my sister was her mother, and I, her beloved aunt. Her name was Eleanor Vance, your mother. The world spun. My mother, Eleanor, my mother, who had died so young, so tragically. She wasn't Clara Mae's daughter. She was her sister's daughter. No, she was Clara Mae's daughter. My mother was the secret child of Clara Mae and Liam, the child of that forbidden, tempestuous summer love. My mother, my own pragmatic, grounded mother, had been born of a wild, secret romance, conceived in a passionate moment between a Savannah belle and an Irish sailor. She was the very embodiment of Clara Mae's hidden story, and Clara Mae, my grandmother, had lived her entire life as my mother's aunt, carrying this profound secret, watching her own child grow up, unable to claim her as her own, yet loving her with an intensity that transcended societal rules. The family member who had intercepted Liam's letters had also ensured this secret remained buried. This was the legacy she spoke of, the truth that only you can understand, the truth that my very existence, my connection to this family, was not just about my mother and grandfather, but about the passionate, hidden love of a young Clara Mae. It explained so much about Clara Mae's occasional melancholic moods, her deep, unspoken affection for my mother that always seemed to go beyond that of an aunt. It explained the zither, the quiet melodies, the fascination with women who lived outside the lines. My mother's strong, independent spirit, her occasional restlessness, her love for music, it all made sense. She carried her true mother's wild heart. My hands pressed against my mouth, stifling a sob. Revelations washed over me in waves, transforming my understanding of my entire family, my entire life. Clara Mae hadn't just left me an inheritance of objects. She had given me the inheritance of truth, the profound, beautiful, and heartbreaking story of our blood, of our resilience, of our enduring love. I was not just my mother's daughter. I was the descendant of a secret passion, carrying the echo of Liam's storm-gray eyes and Clara Mae's untamed heart. The garden. The old oak, the very ground beneath me felt alive with the whispers of this incredible, untold story. Chapter 5, Whispers in the Family Tree. The truth, once hidden beneath the earth and decades of silence, had burst forth like a long-dormant seed. My mother, Eleanor Vance, was not just Clara Mae's niece. She was her daughter, the secret child of Clara Mae and the ill-fated sailor, Liam O'Connell. The revelation felt monumental, shifting the very foundations of my understanding of my family, my own identity. I sat there in the garden, the wooden box open on my lap, the letters from Liam, and the small silver locket bearing witness to a love story almost erased by time. The journal, Clara Mae's final confession, lay open to the last page, the words Eleanor Vance, your mother, searing themselves into my mind. I read and reread it, trying to fully grasp the enormity of her sacrifice, the quiet burden she had carried for so many years. She had lived a life of duty while nurturing a profound, unacknowledged love for her own child, right under the noses of society. My first impulse was to call Aunt Susan, to share this earth-shattering news, to demand an explanation, to confront the family secrets that had twisted our history. But then I hesitated. Clara Mae had chosen to reveal this to me, a truth that only you can truly understand and appreciate. She had given me this responsibility, this profound gift. Aunt Susan, pragmatic and deeply traditional, might struggle with such a radical reframing of our family narrative. It would be a shock, perhaps even a source of pain, for her to discover her niece was actually her biological sister. No, this was something I needed to process first, to truly understand the implications before I shared it with others. I spent the next few days immersed in Clara Mae's final journal. She wrote about the agonizing decision to give up her child, driven by the suffocating societal pressures of the 1940s South. An unmarried mother, especially one who had conceived with a transient sailor, would have brought ruin to her family. Her sister, a kind, childless woman, had offered to raise the baby as her own. It was a heartbreaking choice, born of desperation and a desire to protect the child from scandal, to give her a proper life. Clara Mae described the quiet agony of watching her daughter grow up, loving her fiercely as an aunt, unable to embrace her as her mother. She spoke of the private moments shared with my mother, the knowing glances, the unspoken understanding between them. My mother, Eleanor, had indeed inherited Clara Mae's love for art, her independent spirit, her subtle melancholy. The traits I had always attributed to family resemblance were, in fact, the direct inheritance of a secret maternal bond. I read Liam's letters. They were filled with longing, with promises of return, with plans for their future. He had indeed come back for her, searched for her, only to be told she had moved on, married, built a life. He returned to Ireland, his heart broken, never knowing he had a daughter. My heart ached for him too, for the double tragedy of their lost love and his lost child. The intercepted letters were a cruel twist of fate, a decision made by a fearful family member, perhaps my great-grandmother, to protect Clara Mae's reputation and the family's social standing. It was a tragedy, born of well-meaning but ultimately destructive intervention. The weight of these revelations settled on me. I wasn't just Amelia Vance, architect. I was Amelia Vance, the product of a passionate secret love, the granddaughter of a woman who had quietly defied society while outwardly conforming. My understanding of family, of love, of sacrifice expanded exponentially. I decided to visit the local historical society in Savannah. My grandmother's love for history, for uncovering forgotten truths, now made profound sense. I spent hours poring over old city records, newspaper archives, and genealogical databases. I found records of Clara Mae's sister's marriage, the birth record of my mother, Eleanor, listed under her adoptive parents. It was all there, carefully obscured by time and discretion. I even managed to find a small obituary for a Liam O'Connell in an old Irish newspaper from the 1970s, a fisherman who had never married. A quiet life, perhaps haunted by a lost love. My heart squeezed. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I decided to speak to Aunt Susan. It was a difficult conversation, one I knew would bring pain before healing. I brought the wooden box, the letters, the locket, and Clara Mae's final journal. We sat on the porch swing, the familiar creak a rhythmic counterpoint to my trembling voice. "Aunt Susan," I began, my voice steadying with each word, "Clara Mae left me more than just the cedar chest. She left me her life story, and a very important secret." I explained everything, slowly, carefully, watching her face as she absorbed the astonishing truth. At first, she was incredulous, then angry. "This is impossible, Amelia. Eleanor was my niece, my sister's daughter." But as I showed her the journal, Clara Mae's own words detailing her secret as I laid out Liam's letters, filled with a desperate longing, and the silver locket with the lock of hair, her defenses crumbled. She held the locket, her fingers tracing the tiny portrait of Liam, her eyes welling with tears. She recognized Liam from old, faded family photos she'd seen as a child, a dashing figure whispered about but never truly explained. "Mama, Mama did this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, referring to my great-grandmother, who had likely intercepted the letters and arranged the secret adoption. The shock, the pain of a hidden past, was evident on her face, but beneath it, a profound sadness for her sister, for Clara Mae, for the life she had been forced to live. She slowly read Clara Mae's final journal entries, tears streaming down her face, finally understanding the depth of her sister's love and sacrifice. "She loved your mother so much, Susan," I said softly, reaching for her hand. "She watched her grow, from a distance, but with a love so fierce. She chose to give her up, to protect her, to give her a life she couldn't offer herself at the time." Aunt Susan eventually nodded, her eyes filled with a new understanding, a deep, aching empathy for her mother's hidden sorrow. "My poor Clara," she whispered, "all those years, carrying that burden alone." The anger softened into grief, then into a profound admiration for her mother's strength. The revelation rippled through our family, albeit gently. I shared the story with my cousin David, whose lawyer's mind grappled with the legalities, but whose heart was touched by the raw emotion of the tale. My own children, Sarah and James, who had been curious about Clara Mae's treasure hunt, were astonished by the final truth. It gave them a deeper connection to their own lineage, a richer understanding of the complex tapestry of family. They saw their great-grandmother, not just as the stern, traditional matriarch, but as a woman of profound passion, sacrifice, and enduring love. The secret was finally out. The whispers became truths, and with its unveiling came a profound sense of healing, not just for me, but for our entire family. Clara Mae, even in death, had orchestrated a final, beautiful act of love, ensuring that her truth would finally set us free. The old house in Savannah, once holding a quiet sadness, now felt vibrant, filled with the echoes of a love story that had finally been given voice, woven into the very fabric of our family's history. Chapter 6: The Legacy of Love. The Savannah house, once merely a vessel of childhood memories, now felt alive with Clara Mae's presence, vibrant with the whispers of her untold story. The secret of my mother's true parentage, unveiled by Clara Mae herself from beyond the grave, had transformed everything. It wasn't just a hidden truth. It was a profound testament to love, sacrifice, and the enduring power of the human heart. The days following the revelation were a blur of emotion. I found myself returning to the garden, sitting beneath the ancient oak, its branches now seeming to embrace me in a silent understanding. I would hold Liam's letters, reading them not with sorrow for a lost love, but with a profound sense of connection to a past that was now undeniably mine. The locket, with its tiny portrait and lock of hair, became a cherished talisman, a tangible link to the passionate young woman Clara Mae had been, and the bold, adventurous man she had loved. I realized that Clara Mae's final instruction, "Open this only if you truly love me," wasn't a test of my affection, but a filter. She knew that only someone who truly loved her who saw beyond her stoic exterior and embraced her eccentricities, would embark on this quest. Only someone willing to dig, literally and figuratively, would unearth her deepest secrets. And in doing so, I had not only discovered her truth, but also a deeper, more complicated truth about myself and my own heritage. My pragmatic mind had opened to the profound mysteries of the heart. My relationship with Aunt Susan deepened profoundly. The initial shock and anger gave way to a shared grief for Clara Mae and a quiet, respectful understanding of her choices. Aunt Susan and I spent hours talking, piecing together family anecdotes, now viewed through the lens of this astonishing revelation. She remembered small things, Clara Mae's deep, often unspoken, protectiveness towards my mother, the subtle ways she'd spoil her, or step in when my great-grandmother was too harsh. These were not just the actions of a doting aunt. They were the desperate expressions of a mother's love, constrained by the conventions of her time. The family tree, once a clear, straight line, now branched in a more complex, beautiful way, rich with hidden stories and profound connections. I shared Clara Mae's final journal with Sarah and James, my children. They read it with wide eyes, astonished by their great-grandmother's secret life, and deeply moved by her love and sacrifice. It gave them a richer, more nuanced understanding of their own lineage, adding layers of passion and resilience to their family history. They saw Clara Mae not just as the stern traditional matriarch, but as a woman of immense courage who quietly forged her own path in a world that sought to confine her. The story of Liam and Clara Mae became a new family legend, whispered with awe and respect. I continued Clara Mae's tradition of caring for the garden, learning the names of her beloved roses, trimming the azaleas she had planted. The garden, once a place of quiet reflection, became a living testament to her enduring spirit. I often sat beneath the old oak, sometimes with Aunt Susan, sometimes with Sarah, telling stories, sharing memories, allowing the whispers of the past to intertwine with the laughter of the present. I started sketching again, inspired by Clara Mae's hidden artistic talent and her subtle encouragement throughout my childhood. I found myself drawn to the old decaying buildings of Savannah, seeing them not just as architectural challenges, but as vessels of untold stories. Much like Clara Mae herself, my professional life, once defined by precise blueprints and rigid structures, now felt infused with a new sense of artistic intuition, a deeper appreciation for the unseen layers of history and emotion. My grandmother's spirit, I realized, lived on in my own creative pursuits. I never regretted opening the letter. The initial fear, the doubt about my own love, had dissolved into an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Clara Mae had not burdened me. She had empowered me. She had given me the gift of knowing my full history, of understanding the resilience woven into my very being, and of realizing that love, in its truest form, is always complex, always challenging, and ultimately, always profoundly liberating. She had shown me that true love wasn't about flawless affection, but about embracing every facet of a person, even the hidden ones. The Savannah house, once silent, now resonated with the echoes of Clara Mae's life. Her laughter, her music, her secrets, her profound love. It wasn't just a place where she had died. It was a place where she had truly lived, and where, even after her passing, she continued to teach, to nurture, and to love. My grandmother, Clara Mae Peterson, the woman who had always spoken in riddles, had left me the greatest riddle of all. And in solving it, I had not only unlocked the secrets of her past, but had also finally unlocked my own heart. I carried her legacy now, not as a burden, but as a precious gift, a testament to the enduring power of love that transcends time, secrets, and even death itself. She had shown me that the greatest treasures are not material, but are found in the profound depths of human connection, in the untold stories that shape who we are, and in the unwavering strength of a love that truly, eternally sets us free. The echoes of her love, like the sweet scent of jasmine on a Savannah breeze, would forever fill my life, guiding me, comforting me, and reminding me that the greatest adventure of all is the journey into the human heart.